there's a joke here in the Philippines, as there is with many foods, that out of all the fruits in the world, saging lang ang may puso, saging lang ang may puso, saging lang ang may puso. Hi, magandang araw mga kabano. It's Chris here, and today I'm talking to you about Filipino fruits. This is just some of the best, most sweet, most delicious tasting fruit you can find anywhere in the world. Now, the Philippines got such amazing fruit that every fruit has a festival. So, for example, in Guimaras each year, we have the Manggahan Festival. In Camiguin Island, which is a beautiful island down in Mindanao, we have the annual Lanzones Festival. And in Benguet, we have the Strawberry Festival, because the Philippines in the cooler areas can grow these delicious small strawberries that are very, very, very sweet and very, very tasty. So every fruit seems to have a festival here in the Philippines. In fact, I think everything has a festival in the Philippines. Everything. So today, with that in mind, we are going to talk all about my 5 favorite Filipino fruits that I eat the most of. So let's get straight into it. Now, the first one is the humble Calamansi. I say humble because here in the Philippines it is everywhere, but I've heard in the US now calamansi cocktails are becoming really, really popular, and I sort of laugh when I look at that because I'm like, yeah, I've been just putting calamansi in my gin and tonic here in Manila for ages because I can't get lemon or lime. So it's really interesting about scarcity, or it becomes uso sa ibang bansa, but dito sa Pilipinas na talagang na common yung calamansi. So calamansi looks like a tiny green lime, and the flesh is slightly orange in color, but it's sort of somewhere between like a lime and an orange, and grows on these small shrubby bushes. I have 2 calamansi plants on my rooftop here in Manila growing in pots, so when they come and they're bearing fruit, I go up and pick them and make my fresh calamansi juice. It's commonly interchangeable with what we call the dayap here in the Philippines, which is a slightly larger but also sour citrus fruit grown here in the Philippines. So 2 options, but calamansi is far more ubiquitous across the Philippines, and it's just got so many uses in cooking. So obviously as a souring agent, you know, you can make sinigang, and if I ever make a fish-based sinigang, I really love it to be with calamansi as my souring agent. But it's also very widely used in sauces. So if you think toyo mansi, you know, the classic soy sauce and citrus sauce that Filipinos like to make. And of course you can make it into just straight up calamansi juice, or you can use it in a lot of different drinks. I usually put it as well if I'm making fruit shakes, like a mango shake, or my patented banana papaya calamansi shake, my PBK shake, which is the best way to start your day in the Philippines. And the calamansi juice just adds this little sour zing. If you're ever eating papaya, you just have to squeeze calamansi over it, and that's just delicious. I don't know exactly what is going on there with your taste buds, but it is the best with papaya. Now, second on my list, of course, is the banana. The banana plant itself has been cultivated in Southeast Asia since somewhere between 5,000 and 8,000 BC, so everywhere in tropical Southeast Asia, and they grow very, very easily. And I love this. It's the #1 fruit for us in Australia that kids eat, and I think it's really, for any culture that likes bananas, it's one of the first things people eat because it can be mashed up. It's a perfect first solid food for babies. I certainly was a banana kid. I know I ate like truckloads of bananas between the age of sort of 6 months and 3 years old, and I still eat a lot of bananas today, probably not as many as when I was 2 years old. Now, what I love in the Philippines about the banana is, in Australia, it's like this one type of banana, you know, the long yellow Cavendish, like TV bananas. They look like the iconic banana that you would see in a movie. And, you know, they're pretty good. They're pretty delicious and everything. But in the Philippines, you have like so many more types of banana. Lacatans, which is, you know, what I've got in my fruit bowl here, and probably the one I eat more of than anything while I'm in the Philippines. Then you have your Saba bananas, which are the fat and thicker skin ones, which are often used in cooking, but can also be made into things like banana Q and turon, which, you know, is sort of like banana Q but in a lumpia wrapper. You also have latundan, which is sort of a thinner skin, a bit sweeter than the lacatan, and you have your señoritas, which are like the small baby ones, and I like them because you can just put them on the table and eat 2 or 3 pieces, and everybody can share them because it's just so many, but they're bite-sized. They're like the fun-sized banana. So in addition to eating the fruit, the heart of banana, puso ng saging, is also commonly used in Filipino cooking. And of course, the banana leaves are used for preparing things like kakanin, where they can be a base or almost a placemat for putting your rice treats on. And the banana leaves can be used as improvised placemats for Filipino food, including the budol fight, where you use a full-length banana leaf and just put everything on there. Now, bananas have a lot of uses outside of the health benefits and the delicious flavors. So one of those is kung halimbawa matinik ka. So tinik, the root word there is for fish bone. So if you are matinik, you have been swallowed a fish bone and it's jammed in your throat. throat and you're choking to death, or it may be slightly less dramatic, it may just be very painful. And what you do in that case is you basically smash a whole banana whole, maybe just mild chewing only, and force it down your throat, and that's gonna like catch the fish bone and kind of plunge that into your stomach and help dislodge it from your throat. Okay, now of course there's a joke here in the Philippines, as there is with many foods, that out of all the fruits in the world, saging lang ang may puso, saging lang ang may puso, saging lang ang may puso. Next, of course, is the mango. I think banana, buko, manga, and piña are probably the most commonly known Filipino fruits. So no surprise that this one's on the list. It's known as the queen of Philippine fruit. And I think Filipino mango is hands down the best in the world. Australia has very good mangoes, and I'm sure there's some other parts of the world that grow good mango, but the consistency of Philippine mangoes, the price of Philippine mangoes, they're so cheap compared to elsewhere in the world. So I eat a lot more mangoes here. Now, mangoes grow on trees that can get to sort of 15 up to 18 meters in height. Very large trees, they can live for up to 100 years, and they're very productive. So one tree can have, you know, dozens and dozens of mangoes on it, which is fantastic. So if you have a mango tree in your backyard, you're a lucky person. Now, mangoes come in a few varieties. I'm going to eat this later today because it's like super ripe right now. But this is the sort of classic type of mango you'll find here in the Philippines. Super sarap, delicious, sweet, and that bright yellow-orange flesh that you would associate with mango. You also have your Indian mango, which is going to be, it's a smaller, kind of denser, less sweet, and a bit more fibrous mango. And I sort of like those. They're still very delicious, but not that as sweet as the classic type. So mangoes, typically Filipinos will consume them in two main ways. One is kind of as a sweet fruit, which is kind of your typical ripe mango, you know, manggang hinog, and that can be eaten just straight as a fruit after a meal, or it could be in addition to certain desserts like mango float, which is the ultimate 20th century Filipino-American cooking combination. And now the other way Filipinos eat mangoes, of course, is when they're still raw. So you can use green mango as a souring agent when it comes to cooking sinigang, for example. While it's still green, you can boil that up in the broth and eat it as part of a soup. And also you can just sort of peel those green mangoes, and they're quite sour at that level, right? The sugars haven't yet formed in the fruit, and you can just dip that in bagoong and have this sort of salty sour hit, which is a popular snack in the Philippines. And of course you can make your mango shakes. So I love making green and yellow mango shakes, but the ripe one is sweeter, very easy to make, you put milk in it. But I would really recommend trying out a green mango shake if you come to the Philippines, because it's sort of this really satisfying sweet sour combination and super refreshing compared to the traditional sort of yellow mango shake. The next one on my list today is Lanka, or jackfruit. Now, if you've ever seen those giant sort of bulbous, spiky, kind of looks like a medieval torture device, that is what we're talking about, Lanka. And this is fruit which you crack it open, and then inside there are these pods and bits of fruit, and you get them and you sort of got to pull the fruit out and separate it from this giant kind of honeycombed, sharp looking fruit, if that makes sense. So normally the way they'll do that is they'll cross cut a big lanka, and then you can kind of get at the fruit within, and you sort of can peel away the strands of edible fruit by hand. The lanka tree's life will typically range between 100 and 200 years. So this one can last for an extremely long time, and they can produce up to 100 fruits per year, these huge jackfruits. So you only need a couple of these in a field, and you'll have more lanka than your family can eat, than your barangay can eat, than your whole village can eat. So it's a very, very productive tree in that sense. So typically you can either buy lanka by big chunk, and you've got to process it yourself, but more commonly now in the markets, the tinderas will all have pre-processed the lanka, so you're just getting the fruit, and you pay obviously more because it's just the fruit by the kilo now as opposed to all of the waste. So the flavor, it's sort of this deep yellow flesh when you actually get to the fruit, and it's sort of sweet, maybe just a little sourness to it, and the smell is very strong. It's almost this like almost a pungent aroma to the jackfruit, or perfumed, almost like a deep perfume smell to it. And it's really nice as a result to use as a flavoring in desserts and things like halo-halo. You'll definitely know it's in there, if you know what I mean. It's very distinct, yung flavor ng jackfruit. It can also go into turon, especially when it's mixed with bananas, some ice cream, some ube, and that will be just a super delicious dessert. And like a lot of Filipino fruits, it can also be prepared as an ulam. So you make ginataang langka, where you actually prepare it in a more savory style, and you're actually using your jackfruit more as a vegetable. Now, the last fruit I'm going to talk about today, of course, is piña. Pineapple is quite slow growing, and typically you can grow with that like thorny crown. You can plant those tops in the ground and they'll sort of retake root and then they'll form a new pineapple. So it kind of looks like this shrub with spiky pineapple top, and then in the middle will be the fruit, which also has its own spiky top, and you can cut that off and plant it again. So that's sort of how the life cycle of pineapple occurs. So piña is grown very widely across the Philippines, the areas around Tagaytay, Cavite province, Bicol, Northern Mindanao, Calamansi. They all are growing a lot of pineapple, and it's something that's a lot is exported from the Philippines to other parts of Asia in particular. Pineapple is one of the fruits I also think the Philippines does better than just about anywhere else on the face of the earth. The Philippine pineapple it's sweet, it's succulent, it's delicious, and as an Aussie, I obviously love our Australian fruits, but I really find out pineapples are like big and a little bit more acidic, and maybe it's not quite as sweet as the Philippine one. And you come here, the pineapples are smaller, a bit more tender, a bit more fruity and sweet, and they're just perfect. It's an oblong fruit, and when you eat it, you normally would take the top off, and then as you cut the skin off, it kind of has these eyes all around the fruit. So the best way I've seen to prepare it if you're on the street is you kind of just trim the leaves, so you have like a hawakan at the bottom, and then you can cut very thin edges off the pineapple, and then you can kind of cut this diagonal pattern to remove the eyes around the pineapple, and that for me is the best way to eat it on the street because you minimize the fruit you lose. If you're really picky though, you can just basically slice thicker around the skin and then you'll just cut the eyes off, but you lose maybe like a third of the total fruit if you cut it that way. My only problem with piña is I actually get allergic to this. It gives me some mouth ulcers whenever I eat it, so I sometimes just decide like, okay, I'm in Tagaytay, it's pineapple time, I'm just going to eat as much pineapple as I want and put up with the consequences later because it's so delicious. Alright, so that's everything you need to know about Filipino fruits. We've talked about some of the major ones today. Now, of course, I'd love to hear your guys' comments below. If you've got any thoughts of what should be on my list, what I should eat more of, what fruit I should try next. I want to hear what you guys like to eat, or if there's any like little provincial fruit that nobody's ever heard of. I know there's some fruits in Mindanao that like nobody's heard of outside of Mindanao, so let's actually showcase some of these, help them to go global as well. Now, of course, you can subscribe, leave a comment, and don't forget to check us out at Facebook, where you can enter into a lot of the competitions we're doing this year. So maraming contest, maraming giveaway para sa ating mga kabano dito sa Pilipinas. So you can go on there, get involved, be part of the story, and don't forget to share all of these vlogs with our kababayans abroad. I'll see you guys next time. Bye. The number one vegetable in Guimaras. Guimaras? Guimaras. 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 Guimaras.